Hello and welcome or welcome back to another episode of Shoulders Down. My name is Leah Kern. I'm a registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor. And here on this podcast, I'm here to give you tools and tips and creative approaches to healing your relationship with food and body so you can feel normal around food and so you can reclaim your precious mental real estate and live your most expansive and fulfilling life. Today we have a philosophical, perhaps, episode for you. We're going to be pondering the question that has been on my mind lately, which is ChatGPT making intuitive eating harder? Now, some backstory. So, when my clients come to me, they're usually really good at outsourcing decisions about food and exercise. Typically, they're very much in the practice of turning to an app, a rule book, or their smartwatch to govern what and when and how much they eat or exercise. In our work together, I help them to reconnect with their own innate wisdom, their intuition, in order to govern their food and movement decisions. So instead of something like, I'm eating X food because it fits within my macro plan according to this app, it becomes something more like, I'm eating X food because it's what my body's asking for. Or instead of, I'm waiting till noon to eat because that's what intermittent fasting rules tell me to do, it becomes something more like, I eat my first meal of the day when my body is showing me signs of hunger and or when it makes sense for me based on my schedule. If you've been living in the diet mindset, you're probably also in this practice of making decisions based on outside metrics like point systems, diets, food rules, or other parameters that you've internalized from social media or from different diets that you've maybe heard about in the past. And for me to simply ask you to go inwards and listen to your body, that's so much easier said than done. That would be like someone asking me to just do a pull-up. I wouldn't be able to. I would be hanging there and my face would be turning red and I'd be like squeezing, 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 but nothing would happen. I'd need lots of reps and practice, intentional practice, exercising my upper body to get me to a place where I could do a pull-up. Similarly, if you're coming from the diet mindset background where you outsource eating decisions to rules and metrics and the time of day and apps, then you need a lot of practice dropping into your body and hearing its cues to be able to do intuitive eating. I've got tons of tools for my clients and to help them to access their body's innate wisdom, to flex that muscle of dropping in and their interoceptive awareness. But that's actually not what today's podcast is about. If you want more on that, I will quickly share that I am working on a 10-step audio course that you'll be able to listen to on your podcast player, just like you're listening to this episode right now. It's a private podcast feed that will be coming out very soon. Right now, the waitlist is up. If you want to make sure to be first to know and potentially get some cool perks and discounts for getting on the waitlist, you can head to the link in the show notes and drop your name on the waitlist. And in that course, I talk a whole lot about how to exercise that muscle of dropping into your body. But anyway, that's a whole side quest. The reason I bring this up is because today's episode is about a concern that's been on my mind lately. With the rise of I worry that we're going to get worse at going inwards for answers, at flexing this muscle of dropping into our bodies. And I worry that this will make it even harder to hear our own inner wisdom because we have this thing in our lives that we're in the practice of outsourcing decisions to. I mean, I know I've been doing it more and more. Like today, I literally asked ChatGPT which subject line I that it thought would be better for my upcoming newsletter and what cover art it thought would speak to my ideal client more for my new private podcast that I'm working on. And before the popularization of ChatGPT, I would have gone inwards for that information. I would have picked the subject line that I believed in my heart would perform best based on what I know about my ideal client. And I would have picked the cover art that I thought my ideal client would connect with most. I would have had to figure that out for myself. But now, instead of using those opportunities throughout our days to go inwards and hear our own wisdom, for me personally, I've defaulted to outsourcing the decision making and thought processes to ChatGPT. And I know I'm not alone in this. More and more people are turning to AI, asking for feedback and asking to form thoughts and opinions about things. And I don't think this is inherently bad, but I do worry what it's going to do to our ability to drop into our own bodies for information. In these moments where we ask ChatGPT something, we miss the opportunity to decide for ourselves, to dig around inside and make sense of how we feel. Is our body contracting? Is it expanding? What's our gut reaction? What's going on inside of our bodies? Instead, we lose that chance, which over time, I worry that this will lead to essentially weakening the muscle of interoceptive awareness. Now, I've thrown around the word interoceptive awareness a few times, and I just want to make sure we define that. Interoceptive awareness is fancy intuitive eating lingo for the ability to perceive and respond to internal bodily sensations and cues. So this is actually something that can be measured. How much interoceptive awareness a person has directly relates to their ability to do intuitive eating. It's a skill that you can work on and get better at. So it's not like you got what you got. You can always improve this skill. Often people who engage in like yoga and meditation have higher interoceptive awareness. But in general, in our society, like there's not as many opportunities to begin with, even before AI, to go inwards and consult our own inner wisdom. I feel like we live in this like fast-paced capitalist consumerist society that like doesn't want us to make opinions for ourselves. It wants us to believe the advertising and to sort of blindly take on the opinions that are being fed to us in all different forms, social media, marketing, targeted ads, all that, instead of like pausing and creating enough space to decide for ourselves. And that is really profitable. And our culture, unfortunately, like really is often about what's profitable. So yeah, they're not like teaching this in school. I mean, maybe. I guess like in college and stuff, maybe you learn how to make opinions for yourself and think for yourself. But anyway, I worry that adding ChatGPT into the mix, which it's like certainly we're beyond that point now. It's like certainly in the mix. I worry that like it was already hard for people to access their own inner wisdom for most people most of the time because the way our world's set up. And I worry that adding ChatGPT into the mix will create another thing that will make this even harder. And again, that over time could lead to weakening this muscle of interoceptive awareness, which again is a crucial muscle for intuitive eating. We need to be able to go inward and not only hear, but also trust our body cues in order to practice intuitive eating. And my concern is that AI or ChatGPT specifically is leading us to get fewer reps, quote unquote, of flexing this muscle, of dropping into our bodies, sort of rolling our eyeballs back into our head and looking around and going like, what's going on in there? How am I feeling? I worry that we're getting fewer opportunities to flex that muscle and that that's going to add up and lead to that muscle really weakening or maybe even like atrophying altogether. Which means that when we go to make eating decisions and we try to go inwards and say, like, what am I craving? What am I needing? What's my body asking for? It might feel even harder to know because we're not as much in the practice of going inwards in other parts of life. And this goes beyond just food. If our ability to tap into ourselves gets rusty because of something like ChatGPT, it also gets harder to hear our emotions. And when we aren't well connected with our emotions, we can end up with more unmet needs, which can lead to more base level distress. And that can lead to emotional eating or binge eating from a place of trying to cope with an unmet need. Side note, there's nothing inherently wrong with emotional eating, but it certainly doesn't feel good when you're doing it compulsively and you're feeling really full, but you can't stop because you are feeling activated by an emotion. So this isn't like, I don't know, this isn't like going to be a very long episode because I don't have much else to say other than I'm worried. I think that it's still possible. Intuitive eating is still completely possible and accessible, but I'm worried that our own ability to tune into our innate wisdom or intuition is going to become rustier or more difficult. I'm worried that this could lead us to not trust ourselves as much and our own inner whispers because how do we trust ourselves? We hear what our body's saying and we honor that and we listen to it and we allow whatever unfolds as a result to unfold. But if we aren't having as many opportunities to hear our cues, then we're probably not having as many opportunities to act on them, and that could tarnish our own trust with ourselves. And self-trust is such a big part of this work. Interoceptive awareness is such a big part of this work. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what is it going to do to intuitive eating. Will I start seeing this manifest in my work with clients? I think it's way too early to know. I think ChatGPT hasn't really been around like in like the mainstream way for quite long enough yet. And I also want to say like there are things that you can outsource to ChatGPT that like totally aren't hindering your ability or like replacing an opportunity to go inwards. Like, um, I don't know, if you like send it a document, if you give it a document and you're like, can you organize this for me into an outline or something? I mean, maybe that's in a way, maybe that's, an opportunity you're missing out on to like use your own synthesizing skills. But I'm talking more about like, I guess more like subjective opinion-based things, like which would be better, this or that? Or what do you think I should do, this or that? Like those kinds of like questions. I worry that I feel like I said I worry so much in this episode. Can you tell I'm a little worried? I'm not like actively like freaking out by any means, but it's something I'm thinking about. And I wanted to talk through it on this episode and pose the question to you listening, like, what do you think? Do you notice anything in yourself? Do you notice you yourself going to ChatGPT before you try to form an opinion for yourself? Do you notice any impact it's having on your ability to hear your own messages from your body and connect with yourself? So that's my rambling for today. And again, what I want you to take away is that every time we outsource a decision to something outside of ourselves, whether it's a diet or an app or the time of day or ChatGPT, we miss a chance to practice listening to our internal wisdom. And intuitive eating really depends on keeping that inner connection alive. So, before you ask AI for help with something, try pausing and ask yourself, would checking in with my own body, my own intuition, my own brain give me the answer here? Would it be worthwhile to deal with a little bit more of that friction, that tension, and find the answer that way versus going to AI? And if you're thinking, that sounds great, but I don't even know where to start when someone tells me to listen to my body, that is okay. Like I said, that would be like me hanging on a pull-up bar and someone being like, just do a pull-up, and me being like, I can't. Like, I literally wish I could, but I can't. You are so not alone if you're in that place with this whole like, how do I strengthen my own internal wisdom and that muscle, and how do I grow not only my ability to hear those cues, but to trust them? I want to remind you that I'm working on a really accessible 10-step audio course for you. It's called 10 Steps to Food Freedom. It's going to be low cost, super accessible. You can listen right here on your favorite podcast player, but it's not going to be on the Shoulders Down feed. It's going to have its own private podcast feed because it will be something you have to purchase since it is a course that I am creating. If you want in on that, I would encourage you to get on the wait list because the people on the wait list are going to be first to know. Make sure that you don't miss it when it comes out. And the link to join the wait list is going to be in the show notes. So just head there and you can pop your name on. And can't wait for it to come out. I'm really excited to get to start teaching you some of those concepts in podcast format. So that is all for today's episode. If you have thoughts on this, please reach out. I'm so curious if anyone else is thinking about this. I know it's certainly been on my mind. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day and hope to see you on the wait list for the new audio course. And I'll see you in our next episode.